Launch.
Hello and welcome to our live today. We're going to be talking about why we're doing this free masterclass tomorrow. My name is Tasha, this is Brandon, and we are Rules of Rebellion. And we're talking about this topic, burnout, today because it is the bane of our existence for so long. And we have seen so many people in burnout and not realizing they're in it, and then also in burnout and having no idea how to get out of it. And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about our stories, how we got here, and how we're going to help you get out of it and stay out of it.
I think that sounds fantastic.
Yeah. Tomorrow's masterclass is Regulate to Elevate. Hey, Maria. Oh, we haven't seen you in a long time. And it is at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it is a free masterclass. If you have not registered for it yet, what are you waiting for? Make sure you get your butt in there so that your butt is not burnt out. And if you are not sure if you're burnt out, we're going to be talking a little bit about that today as well. So burnout is the result of a lot of things, none of which are your fault. And this is something that I had a really hard time believing when I was in burnout and as I was moving through the process of getting out of burnout. Burnout in particular happens for those of us who are hyper productivity based self-worth people and those of us who are people pleasers. Those are the two most common traits we see in burnout.
Those two traits of people tend to be found in people who identify as caregivers as well. Those two things feed on each other like crazy. And so if you are in a position where you are a caregiver, and not even like in an emergency kind of a way, like if you're a caregiver of your family and you are feeling exhausted all of the time, it probably has a lot to do with people pleasing and hyper productivity based self-worth traits that we collect as we grow up. We've been taught over and over and over again that it is our job to be there for other people and sacrifice ourselves over all else so that the thing can have more time, energy, whatever it may be, the thing being family, the thing being work, the thing being passion projects, the things being relationships, whatever it may be. We are constantly told, if you're not giving 110% of yourself, that's not 110% of what you have, that's just all the time, then you're not doing it right. Which means for those of us who are people pleasers and those of us who live in a state of trying to be hyper productive all the time, we are constantly everywhere all at once, which means we are not getting a whole lot done and we're exhausted by it and then also don't know why. And so Tasha and I have lived that for so long, and it wasn't until we started peeling back all these layers that we understood what was happening. And it wasn't until we learned about nervous system regulation that we understood that there was an actual way to not fall into that pattern. We just haven't been given that path ever in life.
We also have not been given permission to just do less than the world is demanding of us.
Right.
And so if you are someone who is neurodivergent, you're so much more likely to land in burnout because the world is not set up for you. If you're someone who's chronically ill or has a disability, you're much more likely to land in burnout. If you're a caregiver, you're more likely to land in burnout. This is why that's what we focus on, because these are all the factors that we ended up looking backwards and seeing were why we became people pleasers and hyperproductivity based self-worth perfectionists, because this is how we knew how to respond to the world that was demanding things of us that we thought we had to fulfill in order to be successful, to be a good parent, to be a good partner, to be a successful entrepreneur, to have enough money, all of these things. And newsflash, doing your best doesn't mean doing your most. It does not mean doing the most. And I did not know that. And so I just kept saying that I'm not exhausted. I can still do more. And so I kept doing more. And for those of you who don't know my story, in 2014, I started getting a bunch of symptoms that didn't make any sense to us. It was like I had the flu. I had aches and pains from head to toe, but it didn't go anywhere. Like it didn't go away for weeks. And oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. And we went to doctors and they said everything looks fine, your blood work looks fine. And it was months and months and months.
They did say often that you should try to do some more yoga, which maybe you just didn't do as much as you probably could have.
Infuriating. Anybody who's worked has been a patient of the conventional medical world knows how infuriating it can be to have symptoms, to have challenges, and to have it be dismissed. Oftentimes we're gaslit. And so get to 2017 when I was finally diagnosed, I was already bedbound at that time. I had lost one of the businesses. I had drastically reduced my participation in the other. And then eventually I lost both businesses, was diagnosed with something called ME/CFS. So those of you may be familiar with chronic fatigue syndrome. And basically told while I was bedbound, you're going to be lucky if you don't get worse. You're definitely not going to get better. And that was devastating. I was 37. Brandon and I had been married for 8 years, 6 years, something like that.
Yeah.
6 years or so. We had two small kids, elementary age kids, and Brandon had to start working all of these extra jobs to make the money that I lost from not being able to work my work. I was working in direct sales, and our entire life changed. It became from partial survival mode that we didn't know we were in to full survival mode. And we lost time with each other. We both lost time with the kids we can't get back because I was in bed and Brandon had to do all of my work plus all the extra work of caring for me and all the medical work. And we had piles of medical debt that ultimately ended up not actually helping us. And so this place of burnout isn't just being tired for a weekend. It isn't just being a little fatigued from having a busy season. Burnout is a full physiological experience. I'm going to give you some signs of burnout, and then I'm going to let Brandon tell his story of his burnout that happened after mine. If you are finding yourself someone who is generally positive and optimistic, feeling cynical and jaded and kind of getting a little fed up with people's positive attitudes, that's a sign of burnout. If you, no matter,
I was born that way.
you were born burnout.
Yeah.
If you are someone who does take the weekend to rest, but still are not all the way feeling recovered, no matter how much rest you get, you're not actually feeling recharged. You're having a hard time feeling inspired or motivated. You're starting to have headaches or insomnia, you're having a hard time sleeping, you're using caffeine to get through the energy lulls more and more and more, or those energy drinks. These are all signs that you're either already at the beginning stages of burnout or you're well into it. The important part I need you to hear about this is that you didn't do anything wrong. This is a natural-ish, normal response to the demands of the outside world. And we've learned to, women in particular, there's a lot of you are here because of the video that Brandon, of Brandon that we put up from him coaching. You're not allowed to ask for help. You're not allowed to ask for something to be different. You're not allowed to ask for your circumstances to be changed, to be more accommodating for all the demands and the responsibilities and the roles that you have to play. And it's so challenging to be able to have the conversations to get you out of burnout, which is why this has become a conversation we are having within Rules and Rebellion constantly, because people have said, why didn't you just ask for help? We literally could not, because our nervous systems were so activated by the thought of someone participating in our lives by so much of the conditioning we had.
We also did ask for help, and those fuckers said to do yoga, and then you ended up in bed in a wheelchair, so they can go fuck themselves. So I am still a little touchy about that. I also want to talk about this like normal response. It's absolutely upside down and backwards that our normal response to quote unquote normal life expectations is burnout. Like that's so bananas that we all will just ultimately end up there. Because the thing that happens is nobody asks you along the way, is this too much? Or nobody asks you along the way, do you need a helping hand? Or do you need to sit this one out for a little while? We are just constantly fed this narrative that the only way that you're going to get what you want is if you do more and more and more, and you give more of yourself, not only to the people that are existing in your life, but what are you doing wrong that you don't have more people in your life more often? Why don't you have more followers on social media? Why don't you serve more people? Why aren't you going out more? Motherfucker, because I'm tired. That's why. And so we have this narrative that we're not ever doing enough. And then we continually try to do more, all while being tired from the first round. So part of my burnout story is, in joking aside, I have been burnout for the majority of my life, because if I look back at the coping mechanisms that I have been employing for the majority of the 41 years that I've been alive, I have been mainlining caffeine since I was before walking. And then in my teens, started a journey to becoming an alcoholic for 18 years, which took quite a lot of work and quite a lot of an intentional path to release. all of that to say that built to a place where we found ourselves with Tasha being in bed and unable to do much of anything for almost 2+ years. I was working as many jobs as physically possible to be able to maintain everything. One of the things that I do want to point out that Tasha said, it affected our relationship with our kids and each other. Burnout is not only going to affect your relationship, it is going to drastically change your relationship with the people in your lives that you love so much. I have a very different relationship with my children right now because of the fact that Tasha was so burnt out that she got so sick, and I ended up having to work so hard to burn myself out to be able to keep us all afloat. And because of that, I didn't have this fun, loose parenting experience that I think so many parents would like to have with their kids when they're young. And we have a wonderful relationship, and the kids and I communicate really, really well. But it took an enormous amount of repairing and reconstructing of what that relationship is going to be like, because we were all so deeply rooted in a survival mode tendency that came as a result of two parents that were burnt out. And if we take too long to think about that, that's heartbreaking. And recognizing that your burnout is not just going to affect, but it's also going to change the relationship that you have with the people that you love. This is something we need to address with a great deal of care and urgency, so that you don't get to a point where you're like, holy crap, I missed all of this. I missed so many moments that could have been so much more light and so much more fun had I known how to navigate what was going on in real time, rather than just trying to plug a lot of holes and put out a lot of fires. Because of the fact that I was doing all that, while Tasha was actually going through this really challenging and scary part of her illness, it was when I stopped drinking. And so I was working really hard at work, and then I was emotionally working really hard to navigate my very scared feelings about what was happening to my partner, my children, our life, and also trying to learn how to take care of myself without this massive coping mechanism. And so what ultimately happened was, once things started to finally slow down and I thought, okay, everybody can relax because we know we're not in grave danger anymore, that's when the danger started popping up for me, because my body got us to the point where we were safe, but then it started to accept and understand all that I had put myself through. And so I started having really severe back-to-back panic attacks for the better part of a year and a half, almost 2 years. And it was really scary. And it was something that I didn't know how to navigate. And it was something that I was not prepared for. And it left me feeling like I was doing something so wrong, because I finally was in a place where we had been working so hard to get Tasha's health in a stabilized state, and the kids started to heal a little bit from the trauma that we had just lived through, and all of a sudden I couldn't continue to do what was still so very necessary, which was work so hard, because Tasha still couldn't work. And because of her illness, that changed forever how she was capable. And now with this added, I had panic attacks all the time. I couldn't work all the time. And I felt like this huge failure that was letting everybody down. And in reality, what it was I was just giving out because I had nothing left to give. And it's terrifying and it's heartbreaking. And it's something that, after we took a lot of time to work through and understand, we started to understand how we could pull ourselves out of it. And it didn't have to be after it had happened. And that, for me, is one of the reasons why this masterclass that we're doing tomorrow is so important. And it's one of the reasons why we want to do it for free. It's because this is knowledge and information that if we had had well before really awful doctor's visits and really awful conversations with family who just refused to take the time to understand, we could have been regulating our nervous system, and the impact on those things could have been so much less severe, and Tasha could have maybe been a little less affected by an illness that she had. And our children could have been a little less affected by the trauma of seeing their parent go through something so traumatic to just visually watch. This doesn't have to be a wait until it's awful and over moment to be able to repair what happened. And that's one of the things that for me is so important that we deliver tomorrow. This understanding that relief can happen while the thing is happening. You don't have to wait.
The 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 part of a burnout that can be a little challenging is that you're not in it because you did something wrong, but you're the only person that can get you out of it.
Yeah.
And it requires you to develop new skills when you're already depleted and exhausted. And this is something that we have worked really hard to break down into more tangible, practical, tactical steps so that it's not just this fluffy concept of what we got from doctors saying you should just do some more, you should do some yoga and decrease your stress. Well, thank you. You certainly earned your medical degree with that piece of advice. And so when we've been doing since we've been in this recovery journey for the last 9 years is really looking at what did we do to shift this experience from being exhausted and depleting and overwhelming to something that's manageable. The reality is living in this world, just scroll just one or two swipes on your news feed or on your even opening your phone with news headlines. There's a lot to be stressed about. There are a lot of people suffering. There are a lot of people that you care about. There's organizations and groups trying to do the best they can, but there are a lot of people that we are watching struggling in addition to our own suffering and struggling because of our own past experiences. And to know that you can decrease the load that your body is carrying by just having some of these nervous system practices in place will help you start to make decisions that are more accommodating to what you actually need rather than continuing the patterns that were ingrained in you that landed you in this place of burnout. You were taught these experiences, you were taught these habits, you were taught, and even if it wasn't directly taught, you were taught to be selfless. You were taught to make other people comfortable. You were taught to appease other people's needs when you actually needed to put boundaries in place. And so when you start when you start working with nervous system regulation and you start working with the actual thing that's going on in your body as opposed to people telling you to think positively and that you just need to change your mindset, you really can start shifting your day-to-day experience and you can start the path to healing not only past traumas, which is often what happens, but also your nervous system, which makes you more capable of making decisions that are aligned with the life you want to live rather than the reactionary response to the stress that you're constantly navigating from day-to-day life.
The other thing that we constantly get fed is all you need is a weekend off. And when we hear a weekend off, usually the thing that pops into most people's mind is I need a night out with friends from work for happy hour, or I need to blow off steam. Some version of partying is really what I'm getting at, is what the cure-all is socially. If you can start to learn how to regulate your nervous system, there are more times than not that you're going to realize what I need is actually less people, less activity, and less noise. And I need to go deeper inside and take care of myself. With a dysregulated nervous system, that is a really scary thing to tell your friends that are so excited to have you be a part of their thing. With a regulated nervous system, you have the opportunity to say, I love every single one of you, and what I need more than anything right now is to sleep for like 36 straight hours, and so I'll catch up with you in a month. That's the power of a regulated nervous system. It's being able to put boundaries in place. It's being able to look at your bank account and not freak out. It's being able to listen to your kids say, I want, I want, I want, and you say, I hear you, and today the answer is no, because we need to do other things. Or to be able to look at your partner and say, I love you dearly, and what I need is some fucking alone time just for a little bit. Not about you, all about me. Being able to regulate your nervous system is going to give you power of choice in your regular life, where in right now you don't feel like you have it because we've been fed so much information that your job is to be more places for more people for more of the time. And it's exhausting. And we only, even you introverts, like the 3.5 of you that are a part of this community.
Extroverts, you mean?
Yes, sorry. Introverts are plentiful. But even you extroverts, like the few of you that are part of this community, that is important for you as well. But we have never really learned how to develop a narrative to be able to say, I do need a timeout. And it has nothing to do with anybody and nobody's in trouble. I'm just sleepy today. That gives us permission to start to recover from burnout in real time while also living our life, which is the thing that none of us are told. It is always a hurry up and wait. Hurry up and get sick and then fix yourself later. And while you're sick, make sure you're doing things in bed. And we are done with that.
So burnout is a symptom. It's not a condition. It's a symptom of the demands of your life and the expectations, the obligations, and the rules that you have been conditioned to follow, and some that you think you needed to do as well. And this is a really important factor to consider for yourself, is that you actually have more choice right now than you are aware you have, which is what tomorrow's masterclass is about. It's about getting you back in the driver's seat of your life, of your decisions for your business, your decisions for your relationships, your decisions for what your habits are. Those of you who feel like you have a long list of bad habits, the only reason you have those bad habits is because your nervous system is so dysregulated, it's constantly looking for something to soothe it. And so we're going to be digging into a lot of really just basics but crucial information that would have been game changers for our entire family 10 years ago, before I started this journey of getting sick and then recovering from it. We use this with our kids. We teach our kids these things that we're going to be talking about tomorrow, and they have used them to such a degree that they are so much more self-sufficient and have recovered from a lot of the trauma that they have experienced as a result of being around a mother who was looking like she was dying, and a dad who was just trying to keep everybody floating. So if you are not registered for Regulate to Elevate, it is our free masterclass that's happening tomorrow, Friday, June 23rd at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you are not registered and you can't make that live, don't worry about that. We're going to send the replay out. So make sure you register so you can get the replay sent to you. It is a game changer. It is so important for you to understand that even though these things happen to you, you now have the opportunity to make a choice that's different for yourself. You can choose to do things differently because you have the resources that you just were never given before. Regulating your nervous system gives you the power of choice again. It gives you your agency back. It gives you your autonomy back. And with practice, you can start making decisions that are going to get you not just out of survival mode, but actually thriving and in a life that you are just really enjoying and being successful in the way that you define success when you're in that new state of regulated.
I also, a little off topic for tomorrow's class, but Tasha just said something about everybody having bad habits and us thinking one way or another about them. I would like to just give everybody this little thing to think about, because we're going to talk about it in another event we have coming up later in the summer. But it's really important to me that everybody gives themselves a break as often as possible. And so when Tasha said bad habits, you had like 3 or 4 things that popped into your head that you choose to not say out loud. Like, some of us eat junk food in our car in the parking lot of the grocery store so we don't have to bring it home. Those kinds of things may be in the category of like bad habits. I want to empower you and ask you to make the choice to, instead of saying bad habits or good habits, flip your script to being effective and ineffective, so that you can spend a little more time feeling a little bit better about yourself. Or if you're not thrilled with the habits that you have, recognizing that it's not a character flaw of you, it's an ineffective choice to get you to where you want to go. And it takes so much weight off your shoulders of being an asshole, because you're not. Because you're a tired human being that is literally just trying to find any way they can to get through the end of a very long, very full day. And sometimes it's a shitty burger in your car, or sometimes it's that 17th cup of coffee. Whatever it may be, it's a coping mechanism that you've developed to get through all of the things. So give yourself a break and remember that it's an effective or an ineffective choice, not I'm a piece of shit and now I've got to go home and brush my teeth before I talk to my kids.
Research shows that when you are more regulated, when you are using regulation tools and supporting your nervous system, you don't need the bad habits anymore, because it's replacing those needs. And so everything becomes better when you are integrating nervous system regulation into your life. Big addictions, small addictions, being able to communicate more effectively with your partner, with your kids, with your friends, asking for what you want. That's why so many of you are here, is because the clip that went viral of Brandon talking to one of our clients is just ask. This idea of just ask is not a thing that we actually can do, most of us, because we have so much history of it not being effective, of being told no, and not just being told no, but having negative consequences. And so the only way to get out of burnout is to start asking for, and then also not accepting anything less than what you actually need. And you cannot do that with the history you have with that experience. And you can start shifting that experience for yourself going forward by preparing for what that reaction could be and fortifying yourself in that experience before you get there. So, and
a regulated nervous system gives you the opportunity to think and act more creatively. gives you the opportunity to think outside the box. So when you do get that no, you can go, sweet, I'm going to choose one of the other 37 options that I came up with in my head because I'm so regulated. I'm just going to do my thing. This was just one path to it.
All right, so we need to wrap up because I think one of the kids is almost home.
Oh, for crying out loud.
So if you haven't already registered for Regulate to Elevate tomorrow morning masterclass that is free, we are going to be doing it via Zoom. So you'll get a link as soon as you register for it to show up at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you can't make it live, you'll get the replay. Make sure that you register so that you can have that masterclass, even if you feel like right now I can't add anything else to my plate. If you listen to it while you're doing other things, listen to it while you're stretching, listen to it while you're taking a walk, it's going to give you a lot of benefit just listening to that free masterclass. So we look forward to seeing you live tomorrow and listening to your responses if you got to catch the replay. If you have any questions that you want to make sure that we answer during the masterclass, feel free to message us, shoot us a DM, or drop them in the comments below. We'll do our best to answer those questions as well. And we are really excited to see you and pass along this information to shorten your path from where you are to this burnout recovery journey. We want to make it easier for you than it has been for us, and this is one of the things that we're doing to do so. So Regulate to Elevate is our free masterclass tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, June 23rd. Register at the link in our bio or just shoot us a message that says masterclass and we'll send you the link. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, friends.
See you, everybody. Oh. Now we're going to turn off 17 phones.
End live video. Yes.